I'm a journalist, but inherently I'm a performer. Everything massive that could happen in someone's life happened in this really short frame of time. I had a near-death experience. I just did not think it was going to get better.
Anyone who says they know what they're doing is full of shit.
An instance where I was crying in the makeup room and then having to go, kia ora, good evening every night. Kia ora, good evening. The Ministry for Primary Industries has temporarily suspended...
How did you navigate that?
Made this big call to explore the option of going on some anti-anxiety medication. I went from losing my job in March, left my husband in June. That was my lowest point, and getting this outside view of, is what I'm feeling right?
How did that woman find the strength to get up and build herself up?
Off we go.
Off we go.
Here we go.
I'm all nervous. I'm doing this with a professional. I'm like, fuck, normally I'm like, it kind of looks impressive, but I don't know. Okay. Let's drop right in, because when we spoke, you called 2023 your brick bus year. If this was a movie scene, like paint us a picture, what happened?
How much time have you got? No. I think what happened is everything massive that could happen in someone's life happened in this really short frame of time. So I went from losing my job in March. I left my husband in June.
Oh, God.
I then travelled to India for a month to work overseas, which was this completely random experience, which was great after having lost my job. So it was for work, but amazing. To then meeting the love of my life, moving house, just everything and anything, all the big things in life, I think happened all at once.
I feel like that's a whole season of a soap opera.
I was like, this is not just a movie. This is the main movie. This is the sequel. This is the threequel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
a movie
the spin-off.
Yeah, and the
spin-off.
And the crazy weird bloopers on the side.
Oh my God. Well, that must have been, impactful to say the least.
Transformational.
Tell me about that transformation, because transformational is a word that sounds really cool and good and positive, which it definitely has aspects of as well. But what was that transformation really like?
I shed so many parts of my life. And I don't think the shedding started in 2023. I think some of that started before, previously when I was at News Hub, and I had this massive pivot from losing my job there and kind of having this identity wrapped up in television and being this newsreader and being a field reporter and not having that anymore. One of my wonderful colleagues, two colleagues, Tova O'Brien and Duncan Garner, they were on air that morning. I was starting later on in the afternoon, and I just had a really big couple of weeks, and I was like, oh, I'll have a nice wee sleep in and I'll go in and start a little bit later because I was on Drive, which started on air at 4:00, and woke up in the morning and there was this request for this big team meeting, and this was all playing out, me at home, and I'm calling colleagues and they're going, you need to come in, we're getting shut down and we're getting taken off air. And then as I was driving in, I think Tova had found out about it and was talking to Duncan about it on air, and they were talking about how awful it was. There were some profanities shared, and,
oh God.
I think that the phrase was, "They've fucked us." That was what was said on air.
It sounds, like they did, and skipped the loop.
There was a bit of fuckery,
Yeah.
and then we got shut off air. So then there was that, and I just think I'm still the version of me that I've always been, but I'm a completely different version now. I'm with a different person. I'm on a different career path that's still similar to from where I came from.
Is it though? Because I find if I'm here listening to your story and everything that happened in such a ridiculous amount of time, it's almost like life, the universe, the big spaghetti monster, whatever you subscribe to, forced you to get in the driver's seat of your life, because it is similar, but now you started your own business. Accidentally, as we say, and you started making some really big life decisions instead of maybe going on a default mode. So is it the same version? or is it very, very different?
Version 2.0, 3.0 maybe.
Yeah.
I think inherently my core values and my personality and the bubbly version of me is the same, but she's just a bit more weathered, maybe a bit more wise. I speak to my friends now. I'm a lot more happy. And I wasn't happy in the trenches. It was awful. It was the lowest I'd ever been. But now I'm the happiest I've ever been. And speaking to friends who have seen me and all those different versions of me, and I'm talking version of me from 15 years ago up until now, and all the versions in between, they have just said, you're still you, but you're just this enhanced version of yourself, which is really nice to hear, and to be able to get that perspective from the outside looking in. Because I know what it feels like internally, but I don't know what it looks like
and it's
externally.
the ultimate compliment, because it's you are more of you. And because you are more of you become more radiant, more magnetic, more successful, more happy. Amazing. But this transformation we're talking about, like you say, it wasn't great in the trenches. No. And I get that. But when we transform, especially at such a rapid pace, there's a lot of grief. There's a lot of mourning. There's a lot of loss, of saying goodbye to old versions of you, of your life, of what you thought, was going to happen. How did you navigate that?
The way I like to describe it is there's 3 pillars of your life, right? So there's your job, there's your relationship, and there's your friends and family. When one pillar falls over, you've got the 2 to kind of prop you up. But when both fall over, you're on your ass, the stool is down, man down, it's really, really bad. And that happened to me in really quick succession. I'd lost my job in March 2023. And then that's when it brought up all the issues with my marriage to the fore. And that's when I made the decision to pull the pin. And the night before the recording, it was actually the New Zealand Radio Awards. And it reminded me of this time, literally 2 years ago, when I had gone to the Radio Awards the night before and I'd won all these radio awards and it should have been a highlight of my career. But at that point, I had lost my job, and the next day I broke up with my husband. And I knew that was going to happen. And there were all these people within the industry congratulating me and going, this is amazing and you've done so well. And that I should have been floating on a little cloud, knowing what was coming, though it was so hard to actually really, really enjoy it. And so when that happened, I was, navigating not having a job, not having a partner to help support me, then having to double the amount of rent that I was paying, and then also trying to go through the process of negotiating an exit package from Today FM, which was really, really stressful and it was very public for everybody in that station, not just me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like, the way this all went down, it made it very public.
Very public. And I just remember every day crying, every day walking around with the pit of doom and despair right there. And I remember one point sitting in my spare room, and I remember sitting down on the ground, and I was just on the phone to one of my best friends, just being like, that childlike tears when you can't even speak and you can't even breathe, going, I can't do this anymore. And it was just awful. And I just did not think it was going to get better. What was I going to do for work? How am I going to pay for things? How am I going to pay for my rent? How it just seemed completely insurmountable and awful. And it's wild to think the juxtaposition then even 6 months down the track within that year. And the way I like to describe it is I met both the saddest and the happiest version of myself in 2023. Complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Actually, that's a really beautiful bridge to something I've been playing with, right? Because you're a media personality. You are also in PR. You started your own PR agency, media consultancy. We'll get into that in a little bit. And some of you may know, I used to own a marketing PR agency. And I always really struggled with the dichotomy between the reality, whether that is of a client situation or where I am at in my life. Let's face it, the pretty picture we're supposed to spin to the outside world from a PR angle, let alone, with a layer of public figure on top of that. How did that woman on the floor, unable to breathe, find the strength to get up, put on mascara, waterproof, and and build herself up.
Fake it till you make it is definitely the mantra that I live by. And I feel like no one knows what they're doing. Even people who you look up to and think that they know what they're doing. Nobody.
Anyone who says they know what they're doing is full of shit.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And fake it till you make it has been what I live by throughout my entire career. And, like that was obviously a really dark moment then, but you talk about putting on the front and putting on the facade, the performance, right? Yeah. I mean, I know I'm a journalist, but inherently I'm a performer. And there were really stressful times in the newsroom. And this was back when I was at News Hub and back when I was at Today FM. And, it's a really competitive environment and there's lots of competition and there's shit goes down, I had some of the best times of my career there, but also some of the most stressful. And then having to go, kia ora, good evening every night and put on I remember there was one instance where I was probably 45 minutes before crying in the makeup room to then presenting News Hub late, which was just wild. But I think everyone's survival instincts are different, but I've always been really, really resilient. And I have some amazing friends, an amazing support system, but also I'm a retreater. So when shit's going wrong and I'm feeling really sorry for myself and I'm feeling really bad about myself, I retreat. I don't ask for help. I just slip back up into my little snail shell and just try and lick my wounds and then come out. But I think there's just always been this little fire and this little fight in me that no matter how much the flame gets extinguished, there's still some embers that can, spark back up again. Yeah. The embers were close to disappearing, let me tell you this, but no.
Never. Nothing can do that.
They came back with a vengeance and unplanned as well. Which is kind of how I got into everything else. It was so unintentional. It was a survival instinct.
Yeah, I want to circle back to that. But when you said, I'm a retreater, it resonated deeply. Like I'm sitting here nodding. I'm like, I know the type. And because I know the type intimately, I also know the drawbacks of that survival mechanism because it's very good in the moment, but it's got to go somewhere. And it's going to come out at some point. Do you want to tell me a little bit what that was like for you?
Yeah, and I think this is the thing. This is the survival instinct. It's the trucking on, just pulling up your boots and continuing to go. And for me, everything in that year happened in really quick succession. So huge, monumental changes, but really, really fast. So it's like March 2023, I lose my job for the second time. June 2023, I left my husband. Then July 2023, I meet the love of my life, and it's like, whoa. And I wasn't looking for anything. And this just beautiful, wonderful, amazing man who's now my fiance, who I'm going to marry in December, which is so exciting, just came into my life. And so I went from this depths of despair to the highest of highs. And then I went to India and did that stint and had this amazing time and was feeling incredible. And I was like thinking to myself, shit, like I've really nailed this, like I had a really, really bad time, but I've taken myself out of it really, really quickly. But it actually always catches up with you. And I've learnt this the hard way. And it was a really strange experience for me because everything's going so well. The business is going great. I have this amazing man in my life. We just gotten engaged. We just came back from Thailand. We went to Thailand for New Year. We had this beautiful holiday. And I came back into work in January just feeling this like overwhelming sense of dread and anxiety and upset and guilt as well, because I'm going, everything's fine. Why do I feel like this? Why on earth do I feel like this? And it was I'm an anxious person by nature, but this was like unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And I retreated, and it started to affect my work as well. I was struggling to write. I couldn't broadcast. And it was really, really scary. And then
it's scary when you don't recognize yourself like that.
And I'm like, normally when I felt anxious, I can push through and I can still perform, but I couldn't do that. And that was really, really scary. And then it was really bad timing because Ben was going away for 3 weeks to ref up in the UK. And so I was kind of at my worst sort of the day before he left, and made this really, really big call, which I haven't spoken about before, but made this big call to explore the option of going on some anti-anxiety medication.
It's a huge decision, but despite the awareness that we have, or like to think we have in 2025 around mental health, there is still the stigma, the judgment, and maybe not even just from the outside, or maybe not even from the outside, but especially high achieving, like powerhouses like you, like everyone watching. There's zero judgments when other people lean into support, but we shouldn't. We can do this. There is such stigma also from within.
And it's wild because I came from this environment of journalism and broadcasting where we're sharing mental health stories and, we're reporting on mental health campaigns and we're reporting on the positive things, and there are other people who are sharing their stories, and still internally, I don't know, I kind of felt this sort of sense of failure that I couldn't handle everything.
Oh, I hear you.
Even though I knew that people's perceptions are changing, but I found it really, really hard to stomach. And the only thing that actually got me over that line was because one of my very best friends, who is amazing and confident and slaying in her job and just a wonderful, completely normal, person, and she had gone through something in her life, and she told me about how she went on anti-anxiety medication, and one of her other friends had said to her, you actually just don't have to suffer.
And it's like, you can eventually push through. Why would you do that to yourself?
100%. And I was punishing myself, I think, by not doing anything. And she said that it changed her life. And so, I remember calling my GP and telling them what she was on, and, I booked an appointment, and I wanted to try the same thing as her because she'd kind of told me about her experience. And I know for every person it's different.
Yeah.
But it gave me a sense of comfort, kind of following in her footsteps. And I had someone I could talk to and kind of talk me and walk me through it.
And also someone you love and respect, to kind of erase that image you have of there needs to be something very wrong with you. And I think I'm really grateful that you have found the courage to share this with us today, because I know for a fact like that, if this is something you experienced, something I experienced, that this is something most of the people listening and watching will experience. Everyone has their own journey, but the fear around the judgment, especially anything mental health related. I mean, we spoke before, your story in a different way, very parallel to mine. And for me, the same thing, falling into what was burnout, and I say just full-blown depression after everything started finally calming down, after years of just being extremely volatile. So the guilt of it's good now, the shame of I'm a trauma-informed coach, like I know this stuff, like I should know better, this shouldn't be me, and it piling up and affecting every aspect of my life. And for me, the medication was finally getting my ADHD diagnosis and getting medicated for that. And for the first time in years, being able to, create again and finish things again, but feeling like a failure for not being able to do it the hard way at times.
100%. But the difference it made afterwards made it all worth it. And it's interesting to use the word burnout, because I think burnout had a lot to do with tipping me over the edge. Yeah. Because I was, as a business owner and a sole trader, and I'm kind of doing everything, and you say yes to everything because you're like, oh my God, everything's so uncertain and it changes month on month. So it was definitely burnout. And then knowing that you're in this really lovely safe space now, and I'm with this, I always see all these memes on all those GIFs on Instagram, and it's about, when you kind of meet that person and you were in your masculine energy the whole time when you were with someone else previously, and you had to do everything and you had to step up and play both roles. And then when you meet someone who actually lets you relinquish that,
You could be
and
your little
embrace
girl.
your feminine. Yeah, and so like I'm literally like I'm the passenger princess. We go to the airport and I'm like do 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 do. Where are we going, babe? Like,
Great.
it's so good. I'm literally like I don't even know where I'm going. I'm just gonna follow you.
That sounds
as long as
delightful.
you don't walk into anything, then I won't walk into anything. And I don't know. It was just so nice, and because of that, I felt so safe. And then so my body was like, oh girl, you are not in survival mode anymore. Like, let's feel everything. And oh shit, did I feel everything. Yeah. But I went on the medication and life-changing.
Yeah.
I feel more myself than I have in such a long time. And, you know, I talked about the hard things in the past couple of years. There were so many other things before that in my journalism career. You know,
course.
I had a near-death experience, a chopper crash training. So when they teach you what to do when a chopper crashes in water. And so I almost drowned during that training. That was about 7 years ago. And I never really dealt with
The
that.
irony of that story.
I know,
A crash
I
train. I'm
know,
sorry,
I
it's
know.
not funny, but what?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's this cage that they put you in and they rotate it in the swimming pool to simulate a chopper crash, and my seatbelt got tangled and I got stuck underwater, and it was just a whole schmozzle. And then the winch with the cage that it was on, it malfunctioned because they tried to lift it out. And
Oh my God.
it was very traumatic. So I had that, and then I kind of had some situations in the newsroom that were really stressful. And because newsrooms, even though they can be amazing and I had the best experiences of my career, they can also be
It's high
toxic
pressure.
elements as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of big personalities. And the thing is, life is for anyone, right? I think no one gets through life unscathed. But when you are, I call it for myself zombie mode. I characterize it really as different parts of my life, almost like in my past life when I had my agency and I lived in Amsterdam. For me, there was also a very drastic like change of set and different people and different language and different country. So it feels quite disconnected. And maybe it's something that comes with age. Maybe it's something that comes with trauma. Who knows? Hopefully it's something that we can also share so other people don't have to do that. But in that kind of previous life, I kind of walked through life in a zombie mode. There wasn't space to feel. I didn't
surviving.
know. I'm surviving. And I don't think I had the tools at the time. So I look back with a lot of compassion, finally. It took me a while. But even if you're not trapped in a cage, in a pool, and just surviving life, there is so much that we don't process because we're not actually taught how to be with our emotions, how to sit in discomfort, how to be with ourselves without distracting ourselves. So when that all comes up all of a sudden, it's like you're one big open nerve walking in the world. How are you supposed to manage that by yourself?
Oh, 100%. And it's, you know, you can talk to your friends as well, but it's kind of nice to talk to someone who's removed also. So a big part of it for me as well was also seeing a therapist and talking about it with someone who was impartial and getting this outside view of, is what I'm feeling right? Am I wrong for feeling this way? And just venting to someone who is completely removed to kind of have that alongside the medication has just completely changed my life. And it's funny, you talk about walking around in this kind of void, not feeling anything, because you're just like, what is the next thing that's going to happen? So here's a missile and you're like, oh,
Right.
hi. And I feel like I went through things like that. And then all of a sudden I felt everything and I've kind of got it all out of my system. And then now I don't have that heaviness anymore. And then now I'm learning to feel things normally. So I'm learning to feel excited about things again. Whereas I used to just feel really neutral about lots of things when I should have been really happy and excited. And
it's a survival mechanism. We kind of just, you know, in order to go through the motions, we kind of, just like in our, if you're faced, you know, in the old days, we're there in our caves and we're hunting and gathering and building fires, and there's a predator there. we go into survival mode, and all our
Fight or
energy,
flight.
all our blood, all our everything goes to surviving, running, our muscles. It's a different version of modern adaptation of that, of like, I cannot afford to feel big things because I cannot afford to lose focus.
Yeah.
Because if I fall off this train, I don't know if I'll be able to get back up.
Yeah.
So I can't afford the high highs either.
Yeah. And I was literally in fight for about 5 or 6 years. And at the height of that fight during 2023, which just, full noise. It's like it's a lot for your central nervous system.
Oh, tell me about it.
It is so much for your central nervous system.
And like, that's why I love what you're saying about the learning how to feel again.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you've had that. You've learned how to regulate, but now you get to build a nervous system, a vessel that can actually hold all the different, tonalities that is life. Basically what we do when we're growing, evolving, we're putting ourselves, or sometimes life puts us in situations that feel scary, but just to see, did I die? Oh no. Because for your nervous system, that's the question. You're going to die. If you do this, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So it's like proving over and over, didn't die again.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
I know. I'm like, I remember getting to the end of 2023 and being like, the only constant that I know now is change.
Yeah.
And I actually think there was a period there where there was nothing major going on in my life. And I was so conditioned to going, shit's going to go down, that I was like,
you're Pavloved. You're like,
excuse me, like, where is the shit? Like, I'm ready to take it.
It's funny that you say that, because that's a really important kind of side effect of, let's say, high impact traumatic timelines. If a lot happens in a short amount of time, which is something a lot of us experience. And like you say, you become so conditioned to be used to it that it's similar. I'm not comparing this in any way, but when someone is in a, let's say, abusive in whatever form relationship, and then gets out, they're so conditioned to the constant threat that being in a healthy relationship feels unsafe, because the nervous system is not attuned to that setting. And even though you rationally know this is probably more safe, it doesn't feel safe because it's not familiar.
Yeah.
So you really get to train your body in the fact that there's not constant change. Doesn't mean my life is boring and I should go bungee jumping tomorrow. It just means that this is life.
Having to unlearn those learned behaviors is actually really hard. Stripping it back down to baseline and building up again takes so much time. It takes so much time.
I know. Because those neural pathways, we've been practicing them for some years and years and years. And yes, we have the plasticity to build new habits and new ways of seeing the world, but it takes repetition and a lot of practice. But let's circle back. You are no longer working in a job. You're in the middle of this crazy year. There's no other word for it. And you decide to start your own business, or life decided for you that it was time to start your own business. Tell me about that process.
Completely unplanned. I call myself an accidental founder because it was entirely by accident. I had never walked through my career with the intention or goal of ever running my own business. For me, it was about working my way up in the newsroom. I was going to be, a news anchor. I wanted to maybe host the AM show eventually. I was hosting News Hub Late. I'd love to have read Breakfast. That was the goal. Yeah. And then it was all pulled out from underneath me twice. And we all know the state of media at the moment. There is so much change. Even after Today FM shut down, then News Hub shut down, and there were all these other cutbacks and redundancies and restructures. And so I knew that the number of jobs within the industry were really, really limited. And also my little heart couldn't handle another redundancy. So.
No, and to be fair, I think what has happened within media, but within a lot of industries, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that the thing that we once assumed was the safe choice that gave us a sense of safety and security doesn't really mean that much in 2025, just because of the state of the world.
100%. Like a full-time salary job is not necessarily the safest place to be.
No.
And so there weren't really any jobs in newsrooms that were going, because there was this huge influx of Today FMers who had lost their jobs. And then the natural progression for journalists is often making the leap to comms or PR. And I was like, well, I don't really want to work full-time for a business that I probably don't really fully believe in. And, you know, if I was going to work for a big corporate in comms, it would need to be the right company. And there's only so many of those roles. And so I was kind of going, I don't really know what to do. So I remember one of my good friends who runs a PR agency actually reached out to me, and she said, I really want to introduce a media training offering. So I thought, yeah, I would love to partner up with you, and that'd be great. And so we designed this media training course together. And then I started getting some freelance PR work from other places. And then I was doing emceeing, which I normally always do. And then next thing, I got this contract to be a consultant in this state broadcaster in India. So I went over to India for a month and worked in New Delhi, which was amazing. And then I slowly sort of started thinking, maybe I'll just do all of these little things. Little things that make up the big thing until the big thing comes along. And then I thought, actually, maybe this is the big thing. And I'm a go hard. Oh my gosh. I'm a go hard or go home kind of gal. So I was like, I've got to design a logo. I've got to do a website. I've got to do this properly.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to invest my time in putting myself out there, it needs to be done in the right way. So I did my own website, because as you know, everyone becomes highly upskilled. You are IT/finance/HR/marketing/everything.
Never had that many hats in your closet.
I know. Need me for your website design? No. Don't hire me for your website design. And even though my website's okay, and so I invested the time and money into that, and then launched properly. And I kind of thought, I'll do this until the right big role comes along. But actually, I figured out that this is the big role, and this is my preference. And for me, I'm a journalist to the core. I'm a broadcaster to the core. Storytelling is my thing. It will always be my true passion. And I'm lucky enough to still have that on my roster of things that I do. You know, I fill in at ZB. I've got a weekly podcast, a business podcast, and I still get to do the broadcasting things. But I just do that for fun, for the enjoyment, for the love of it. And then I supplement my life with everything else. I make my money elsewhere.
What is one thing you wish all female founders knew about PR and getting their story told?
That probably it's all about the people. People are the heart of what you do. People are the things that others relate to. You know, you might have a really cool product. That's awesome. To be fair, I don't really care. What does it mean for me?
Yeah, exactly.
How does it affect me? Has it turned someone's life around? It's about finding the strength of the story, the case studies, the lived experience. I think that sets it apart. And also knowing that sometimes it's okay that there's not always a story to place. You know, there are some businesses where naturally it lends itself to placing a story every other week because it's data driven or you're responsive to government policy or something along those lines. But if it's something like a lifestyle product, generally there's not going to be a story to place all the time. So it's about picking those moments and building it out from that. But also when you're launching the product or you're launching the service, think about what the story could be while you're actually launching and the ideation phase. Think about the story. Bring in that PR person or put your PR hat on when you're in the ideation phase of the product and the service. How am I going to actually make this as part of a bigger story? And I think that's often the mistake that I see as businesses bring me on board, which they're not to know. They go, we've done this, or we've organized this event, like, can you get me
Just
coverage?
Get me published.
And I'm like, okay, cool that you're having this event, but this is not a story. You know, we need to find the story, and if you had this or if you implemented this into this event, that would make it newsworthy, and I can take this to newsrooms and I can take this to lifestyle publications and I can sell this.
And have you ever been in a conversation with someone who wanted you to just get them published? Because I sure have. And where you're like, this is just not a story, and they were unable or unwilling to move it around. And what did you do?
I will always sort of mine for the story when I have my initial meeting with someone. So I never take anyone on unless it's not newsworthy. That's just my mantra. I'm not a huge believer in retainers. I'm more a believer in product and projects, just because I feel like you can't always place a story unless I said like it's something that's data driven. But in that initial meeting, I'll always try and sound it out. So tell me your life story. Tell me a bit more about the product. You know, tell me about your moments of adversity, you know, because there's so many, there's all these different story prongs as well. It's like, you've got the founder's story, you've got the business story, you've got the product story. So it's about mining all the angles from each of those and kind of having that in the initial concept. And yes, there have been times when I'm like, right now, there probably isn't a strong enough angle for me to place. But if you did this, or I know you're working towards this launch, that's something that we can potentially build something around. But no, I don't take people on unless I know that I can get results.
And I love that. It's such powerful advice for anyone listening, to really think about the people in the story and what's in it for them being the reader, not the journalist or the newsroom. Because I think as founders, we can get very feature or product excited, which is cute and beautiful, because obviously we're doing something. If we didn't believe in it with all our hearts, you know, why would we be doing it? Because it's quite delusional, like the lifestyle we're choosing. You wouldn't do that unless you have a certain level of just insanity and passion for your vision and the ripple effect of awesomeness you're trying to create into the world. But in our excitement, we can start talking about, and it has this feature and so many square meters and this and no one's sitting there listening thinking, oh, that's gonna land.
For people out in the world, that's a bonus, you know. What people want to hear is how that changed someone's life, how it made their kids healthier. You know, this family went from, you know, their kids getting sick every other week to now they're running around outside and they're super healthy, you know, and here's little Johnny and here's his mum and here she is raving about how her life has changed, you know. It's a really bad example. Little Johnny.
Oh my God, but who doesn't love little Johnny?
Little Johnny, I know. But the power of story, it's how we connect to others. Finding that common thread, the connection, how it's going to affect me. Like that is what gets people over the line. That is what tugs at your heartstrings, right? It's what is it? The basics of marketing, like, you know, the emotional appeal.
Yeah.
It's the emotional appeal in the story. You can change opinions. You know, you can change the way someone votes with a story. You can change policy. You can change so much with a story.
It's how we originally learned. You know, we're sitting around the fire, like, hey, don't eat those berries, you'll die. You know,
because little Johnny went down to the river the other day
and his poor mom
and ate the bloody berries.
Exactly. So what have we learned, kids? Don't eat the berries.
Yeah, listen to little Johnny.
Don't be like little Johnny. I absolutely love this. Wrapping it up, because crazy year, started a business, which is also progressing and growing in a crazy timeline still. Like from accidental founder, like, oh, well, I guess that's what I'm doing now, to actually comfortably having that be your business, your income. What is one thing, I don't want to say you underestimated because there was no estimation beforehand, but what is one thing that really surprised you about running your own business? From someone who never even had that idea.
I think the amount that I've actually learnt in this period of time, this exponential amount of knowledge that I have absorbed in the past 2 years has been amazing. You know, I'd been a journalist for 16 years, I think, before I started my own business. And every day you're learning about something new, right? Because you're covering a different story. You're becoming this kind of expert for a day. did not learn nearly as much as what I've learned now. And look, maybe I feel that way because what I've learned is different to what I'd been doing over the past 15 years, but it's been so valuable. And I think again, I thought that I was meeting so many different people and networking with so many different people in journalism, but I feel like that has exponentially grown in the past 2 years. I'm working with even more of a diverse range of people, such a variety of businesses. It's been so cool, and I'm still learning. And I've loved learning this much, and it's made me feel so much more open-minded and excited for the possibilities. You know, I'm not pigeonholed anymore. I'm not stuck in a little box. I don't have to answer to anyone. The only one who can make me redundant is me. And I've checked with the boss, and look, I think it's going to be okay.
She's mildly positive.
But what I've also learned is that you'll work harder than you'll ever work in your entire life, but it's for you.
Exactly.
And that's the most important thing. Again, the hours were long and hard and emotional and draining in news. You know, it's news, but wow, like this is wild. But again, it's for you.
Yeah. And it doesn't always, I mean, sometimes it does, but when I'm in a creative flow, I want to play. Like my business, it's like, you know, Play-Doh. I can like create anything I want, and I don't mind making long hours, late nights, early mornings if I'm excited about what I'm playing with. It doesn't feel like work.
And it gives you freedom. You know, you can work from anywhere in the world.
It's amazing.
Mostly, you know, and it's like my partner travels all the time, so I'm able to travel with him and I can work remotely. You know, it's like we're going to Australia for 3 weeks for the Lion series for him to ref, and I just take my laptop and I make sure that, I mean, there's some things I have to physically be here for, but I make sure to not block anything during that time. And it's just the freedom, the autonomy. I think, just the world is your oyster. It's so cliche. And actually, I think I have to share my entire past 2 years, I think, can be defined by lovely cliches, you know?
Hit me.
Diamonds are made in the rough. Growth doesn't come from being in your comfort zone.
True.
It's always darkest before the dawn. It was bloody dark back then.
And the world is your oyster, baby.
And the world is my oyster. Yes.
Amazing. Well, on that note, guys, this has been so educational.
You need a cliche? Come to me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All the good things come to an end. I want to thank you so much for your time, sharing your story so powerfully, vulnerably, courageously. I know that it's important for me to hear. And I hope everyone hearing this knows there is no shame in doing whatever it takes to take care of yourself so that you can shine and create magic, which is what you're doing. Thank you so much, Will.
Yay.
Awesome. Oh, one last thing. All the people listening, if they want to give you a nice little stock online, where do they find you?
So check me out on LinkedIn. So just search Wilhelmina Shrimpton, or my website, which is www.willsandco.com, or my business Instagram, which is Wills & Co Media. Amazing. The Jane of all media trades.
Perfect. The link will be also in the show notes. Go check her out. Go follow her. Go find her. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.